Welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/drive-in-double-feature-podcast. It's just a fun little area where it's us having some off-the-cuff conversation, playing some games, maybe a guest every now and then. Who knows? Just something extra for you supporters out there that we appreciate. If you choose to support us, head on over there. If not, it doesn't affect any regular content. We still appreciate you listening to us today, nonetheless. But today, we're going to be talking about 1972's Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance, directed by Kenji Misumi. And this is the start of a 6-movie collection right here. There's 6 movies in this series,
which is wild to me. I'm excited to get into this. I know this is on the Criterion Collection actually, and it has a really nice set for it with some really great art. So,
did you know anything about this before we watched it at all, or?
No, I knew of it, that it was about a samurai and a baby, and that was about it. I knew nothing about this going in.
Yeah, so this is actually my second time viewing it, and full spoilers, I absolutely love this movie, but it was somebody just recommended it to me. They're just like, I was looking for stuff to watch on the Criterion channel, and I reached out to like one of my friends on Facebook that I know they do that, and they're like, hey, check this one out. I watched it, absolutely loved it, so much so that I watched all 6 movies like in a row, like within like a couple of days. So
nice,
it was truly a fantastic series. I mean, it's got pretty much everything you could want from a samurai movie. It's got like a really great backstory to it. It's got really great intricate sceneries. It also has the most amazing fight scenes and just tons and tons of blood, gore, and of course, boobs. Why not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This movie's sleazy as hell. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, so it stars Subaru Wakayama. He gives a really great performance as Ogami. He's a former shogun executioner for a clan, and he gets stabbed in the back, and because of that, he must become a traveling Ronin assassin. And he's brought his son along with him, and he just goes from town to town with this little baby cart with his son in it, and he accepts assassination jobs.
It's a pretty simple movie, right? It's a simple premise. It's kind of painted like it could be a lot, right? From the opening, it's like, oh, we have these 3 clans and they do all this. But I think once you get into the movie, it's pretty simple, like the whole idea of it. I don't know in the 6-movie span if anything crazy happens, but in this first one, it's pretty simple.
I will be totally open and honest. All 6 movies are all pretty much the same.
Perfect.
But it's just differing levels of action and stuff. I highly recommend watching all 6 of them. But it's this one. It's almost like this one's a little different than the other ones because they do kind of have to give you that little origin story. So half of this movie is kind of like origin story, and then the other half, once the origin story is cleared up, it becomes comes like it's like a 2-parter almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I liked about it. And I mean, hey, I also really liked this movie. It just had the right feel to it. But I think the first part of it is really cool. So like, it gets everything really started out really well. Like it gets you into this character. He shows up with the baby carriage, and it has that whole wild scene of the mom being like, oh, that's my baby, but won't latch on for some milk. So she gives it back.
No, he does.
He does? I didn't think he did.
No, so that's like the thing where he has like a sign that he has hanging off the baby carriage where it says sword for hire, and it also says son for hire too.
Yeah.
So it's this woman, she's completely delirious, and she runs over, she grabs the kid out of the car, and at first he doesn't want to latch onto her nipple, but then his dad's like, Daigoro, like, do it. And then he does. I don't know if it's the same kid, but they do show something latching onto the mouth, and
Gotcha.
and they put him back in. They're like, oh, thank you. And then like the lady tries to pay, and he's like, don't worry, my son was hungry anyway.
Perfect. What a beautiful story. And that's the end of the movie. Kind of
The
beautiful.
10-minute movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's the dynamic between these two characters that I really like. There's a scene that I've been thinking about since I watched this movie. It's it's the one where it's a little bit further in, but where the boy has to pick between, this baby picks between the sword and the toy ball. And he's like, you want the life of the samurai, or do you want to go home to your mom and have fun? And the baby
Yeah.
has to like crawl up and pick which one. I love it. What a dilemma.
So yeah, like I said, he got stabbed in the back and he had to like go on the run type of thing. And that's what happens, is that his wife gets murdered, and so he has his son. So he basically tells his 1-year-old son, who can't even comprehend anything, like, you can either pick the sword and I'll take you with you and then you'll become an assassin like me, or you can pick the ball and I will kill you so you can be with your mother. Like, it's that serious.
Uh-huh.
And it and he even says, like, I know you don't understand, but I'm still making you pick anyway.
Yeah. But the boy does pick the sword. He does fight by the sword, just like his dad. And then, but he also adds, you would have had so much more fun if you if you picked the ball.
Yeah, and that has a great scene too, because he finally takes his revenge on the people that killed his family. And there's a great scene where he is like out in the water, like all his
Yes.
attackers chase him into the water, and he just starts like hacking and slashing people in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And such a great scene. And they have like a little, this is like the end of part one, I guess, technically, but he's like, all right, we're going to have a final showdown. If you win, then I'll let you go. And he has his son on his back and he's like running towards the enemy, and he lowers his head and his son has like a little reflector on his head to blind his enemy, and he just chops the guy's head like clean off.
Yeah. So this movie is like hyper violent, and I was not expecting that. I know samurai movies are violent, but it varies between the different ones. But this one is super duper violent, and it's really great. That water scene in particular is awesome, because he has the showdown with the other person, and then there's an older guy watching from a bridge, and he's like, oh no, he's got to watch out for his super special move, and it's like he's
his
a
wave rider.
Yeah, his wave rider, and he puts his sword in the water and he like flicks it up in the air and like cuts him. Oh, great stuff.
Yeah.
There's some great scenes in this, just in general. A lot of head slashing. One, I remember, you would expect the head to be cut cleanly in half or off, but there's one where it's like particularly brutal, where he just gets hit in the head and it doesn't go all the way through, but it just starts bleeding out through his head. It's like, it was like, oh wow, that's hard to watch.
Yeah, one of my other favorite ones is that one, and I also like a guy is running towards him, and Ogami goes low and takes the guy out the ankle. So his feet are left standing, and the guy's just on the ground with no feet. Like, oh my gosh! Like,
yeah, no, I love that too. This is such a great watch, because I feel like a lot of Japanese cinema that's like you see is really like, you see a lot of dramas or your classic Kurosawa samurai movies. But this is like a sleazy B movie. That's what it is. It's kind of just like a fun, action, violent, sexy movie. And when I got brought here to America, I guess it was, they combined the first two movies into one and packaged that for us. And that makes sense.
I remember because Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors, and
Mm-hmm.
and they actually mentioned that movie in Kill Bill Volume 2. Because I remember, because they're like, oh, because Uma Thurman's daughter in that one. She's like, "Oh, let's watch Shogun Assassin," and that's
Yeah.
that's the movie that they were talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah, and it has like the super cool intro. I guess I'll talk about music, but GZA of the Wu-Tang Clan, his debut album starts with the monologue from that movie.
Oh,
Uh,
it doesn't?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which is really cool. Um, so I mean, the inspiration, like this movie probably made waves at the time, I'm sure. I mean, I would, if I saw this in the theater in the 80s, it probably would rock, or more likely than not, rented it from the video store.
I know. I wish when I was watching it, because it was, I think the first time I watched it was like 2 years ago or something, but
Mhm.
I was like, part of me was like mad. I was like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Like,
Yeah.
why am I just now knowing about this?
Yeah, I knew about it, but like I guess I just never got around to watching it, and it
Uh,
is like definitely missed out.
But to me, it's like, I think it's kind of what you said. Like when I think of a samurai movie, I'm thinking like Seven Samurai, where it's something
Mhm.
like super serious, super like
Mhm.
epic and grand scale. It's just very emotional, like types of movies where it's everything's like a big deal. And this one is just, it's like it's almost comedic about how much
Yeah.
like violence is in this movie. And like one of my favorite parts is when it's like these villagers are trying to hire him as an assassin,
Hmm.
and they're like, well, how do we know it's him? And they're like, oh, well, we'll sneak up on him. Don't worry if he kills us. We'll sacrifice ourselves just to prove a point. like, like,
Yeah.
and then of course, like he's having a meeting with the villager, and these two guys sneak up on him, and without even looking, he just like waves his sword around and kills like these two guys without even looking at them.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I said, they weren't even enemies. They were just like, oh, we're gonna go die just just to make sure that this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, this movie is very tongue in cheek, and I can appreciate that about it. Like I don't think it's parody or anything, but it knows what it is. You know, it's about having a good time. There's a really weird part, I guess the beginning of part two, you would say. So he ends up going to a bridge, and there's like this other, like a group of people, and he kind of he kind of gets sucked into that world. But there's this whole plot line with the prostitute, um
Yeah, these
that
bandits had taken over the town.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. And he just is kind of there, and but they're going to kill the prostitute, but through this whole it was kind of wacky. He ends up having sex with her in the middle of everybody as they watch, and she loves it. She's like, that's a real man right there.
Well, they even because later in the movie, they're like, through circumstances, it was they were insinuating that they were going to kill Ogami's son,
Yes, yeah.
uh, and because she's like, you can kill me, I don't care, and they were like, oh, what if we kill him over there? And then she's like, oh, no, no, please. And they're like, okay, we're going to watch you two have sex and for whatever reason. And
Mhm.
anyway, later in the movie, like one of the other villagers, they call her a whore. They're like, any man would sleep with somebody like you. And she was like, he's like, oh yeah, well, would you be able to keep up that amount of stamina with your life at stake? And he's just like,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
oh,
He's like, oh, you got me. You're right.
so it just something like it's stupid, but it's so great. I mean, it's
It
just
is, yeah.
it's such a goofy line to say in a moment like that, but
Yeah.
it works out so well. It's like I said, just super stylized. Like one of my favorite tropes in 70s movies, or like when they got like blood, like when you like cut yourself and you're bleeding, it's really dark looking. It's not like it's
Hmm.
a real dark red, but in these early movies, like when anyone's bleeding, it's like these very, very bright red colors.
Yeah, it looks like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, like just like somebody dumped like a bucket of paint on them.
Yes, yeah. I love it. It just gives it like a look, right? It gives us like a really like nice look, because there's a lot of spraying blood. That's where like this is one of those movies where people get cut and blood just like splashes everywhere, and it's super red, and it gets all over the place, and it's great. Just the overall look of this movie, the sets and everything, the places he goes, you can tell they put a lot of care into the look of this. Not only that, the cool special effect of him walking the white line between fire and water, and it's digitally done, but it's just so cool. Him with his son walking down the middle, he's got the fire and the water next to him.
That's a really great moment.
Yeah,
I like that a lot too. The other thing too, which I don't know if I've said enough, or maybe I did earlier, but I really, really like the performance of the main actor, the guy playing Ogami. I mean, he doesn't say anything, but he has such a presence on the screen. Like he just such an authoritative figure. Like he's not doing anything half the time, but you're always watching him closely because he's going to do something cool. Like I can feel it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because he's stone silent, but you could just look at his face. You know, he's one of those actors that doesn't have to say anything, and you know exactly what's going on. Like he's just a badass. That's it. He's just a badass. And there's something about the visual of this dude having this baby flopping around on his back as he's fighting people. That's just fun. You know, it's funny.
Well, we haven't even gotten it. So at the very, very end of the movie, there's like one final fight scene. And he's got this, like I said, he always has this baby carriage, like a little baby stroller that he's always has with him. And you're always kind of like, why, what's the deal with the baby stroller? Why does he always have that? And then at the end, it's finally revealed, and he starts, it's almost like a James Bond movie. Like he's got gadgets, every single defense, like the handles for the stroller like comes out and turns into a spear, and and somebody shoots a gun and he throws the bottom of the carriage up in the air, and it turns into it's got like a steel plate, so it's bulletproof. And that, I don't want to spoil it in case we do his other movies, but it's there's other gadgets and stuff this movie does, and other cool moments with the baby carriage. So I just it's little moments like that where it's just like, weren't expecting that at all when you're watching it. You think it's just like a normal baby carriage, and then at the end you're just like, whoa.
It's like a 007 movie. He's got like all kinds of gadgets waiting to go. Or what's another? There is something where like, oh God, am I thinking of Knight Rider? Does that car have like a bunch of different stuff every episode, like a new like special trick up its sleeve every episode? I'm thinking of something. Much. Yeah. Just fun. I'm really excited to go into the sequels. I'm actually really interested in it. Watching this, it felt like a manga, I guess, or like a comic book almost, where it definitely has its slower moments talky, but it always seemed to end on some kind of action-packed, super silly thing going on.
Yeah, and one thing too I like about the other movies is that they're completely episodic. So you get, in theory, I wouldn't really recommend it, but in theory you can watch the rest of those movies completely out of order. Nice. They all stand alone on their own type of thing.
That's cool.
So and it's just him taking different jobs, right? Different assassination plots. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually interested. I want to watch the second one and then maybe check out Shogun Assassin just to see what kind of mess that it becomes.
I don't know. I mean, it may have turned out well. I mean, I can't say for sure. I haven't seen it myself, but
yeah. I mean, I'm sure they were able to cut out a lot, and this probably just all the action scenes maybe put together.
They say like it's mainly the second movie and then some of the first one.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
But like you said, though, I mean, that Shogun Assassin is like also like in its own right, like fell into like this samurai like genre too, even though it's like a completely different experience, even though the other movies completely stand out on their own.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's just an interesting thing, very interesting practice that I guess was going on at the time, kind of a repackaging thing. But no, I mean, Lone Wolf and Cub. This one, I don't know. I'm excited. Oh, we didn't talk about the little girls that sing the song about the turd.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that. I guess that's. I guess that was a common song. I don't know.
I don't know. It got weirder and weirder when it's talking about like it rolled down the hill and it was
Covered in
hard,
dirt.
covered in dirt. Yeah, quite a song.
It bounces. Yeah,
and it was definitely a banger. I'm sure that was nominated at the Oscars for Best Original Song.
Did you look up
Japanese
other? Did you look up any other covers?
Any covers? I hope. I don't know. I hope maybe the Wu-Tang Clan covered it at some point.
Maybe. Maybe Rizzo, the Chiz, and all of them.
Yeah, the whole gang.
But it's I definitely give this one a recommend. I mean, if you're not opposed to extreme levels of violence, of course, but
then you probably wouldn't be watching this, listening, right?
Definitely not this podcast, but but no, I give it a full recommend.
Oh yeah, check this one out. It's really cool. Seems to be pretty available. It is on Criterion, but I think you can find it around other places as well. Yeah, it's just a fun time if you really enjoy the samurai aesthetic or you've never really gotten into it. This definitely got me into like watching more samurai movies. So
yeah, and there's definitely other ones too that I think we can check out. There's another one that I really want to watch called Hanzo the Razor. So
yes, yeah, with the same dude, right?
No, it's a different dude.
Oh, it is? Okay, then never mind. But yeah, no, yeah. I would like to watch that.
They do look similar though on the poster. I will give you that just to back you up on that.
Okay, thank you. But no, yeah.
But all right, well, Nathan, what we're going to be covering next time.
Well, Ryan, we are going to be staying in Japan. We're going to be talking about Drive My Car from 2021. Probably one of our most modern movies that we're going to talk about on the show. You can watch that over on HBO Max and Criterion Channel.
Well, that is good because, it is a car. We got to drive in, so we're ready to go.
Yeah. We're going to sit in that car and we're going to watch the movie about the car in the same car, I guess.
Was this movie playing at a drive-in?
Anyway. Yeah, I know that would be. You got to go see Drive My Car. Do drive-ins play like 3-hour movies?
I guess maybe if it was like, this is the only one, there's no double feature.
I guess in Lord of the Rings was like showing. I'm sure it was like, all right, this is it. One's showing a Lord of the Rings.
You mean to tell me they didn't do the trial of Billy Jack and Billy Jack Goes to Washington as a double feature of the driving? You're just sitting in your car for like 6 hours.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. I couldn't even imagine. People's batteries are dying left and right. They have to knock on windows because people are asleep in their car.
Yeah. The movie's over, sir. Go home.
Please leave.
All right. Well, anyway, trying to close this one out, but we're going to be doing that movie next time. But you can always email us over at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod. And don't, once again, forget to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/driveindoublefeaturepodcast. But until next time.
Till next time.